What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Neighborhood Podcast. One of the hosts of the podcast. My name is Kyle Dabra.
What's going on, everybody? Kevin Valentin here, other half of the podcast. Kyle, what are we talking about tonight?
Kevin, so what we got is an NBA topic on the agenda, and we're going to focus on somebody in the Eastern Conference who's just having an amazing year so far. So, you ready to dive into this?
Yes, sir.
All right, so that one player that we're going to talk about, we're going to focus in on is DeMar DeRozan of the Chicago Bulls. Now, Kevin, I think it goes without saying that DeMar DeRozan is having a career year this year. DeMar is going out there and averaging almost 28 points per game. And when you look at his field goal percentage, it is outstanding. He's shooting 51% from the field. That's his second highest mark of his entire career. And the 28 points that he's averaging is the highest total average that he's had in his career. So it goes without saying that he's having a great year this year. And not only that, the impact that he's left on the Bulls this season has been phenomenal. The Bulls are at the top of the Eastern Conference. They're currently sitting at a 37-21 record. And when you look at the Bulls as a whole, they look like a legitimate contender to possibly make it to the finals this year if they play their cards right. Now, Kevin, with all of that said, do you think that DeMar DeRozan is a legitimate MVP contender this season?
I mean, yes, without a doubt, to me. He's always been one of those players that flirts with the upper echelon of like top 10 best guards or top 10 best forwards or whatever you want to categorize him as a two or a three, especially him in Toronto paired with Kyle Lowry. Went to San Antonio, kind of took like a little bit of a dip, didn't really make any All-Star games at all. And then he goes to Chicago, in which for the last 2 or 3 years, I forget however long Zach LaVine's been there specifically, but it has literally been the Zach LaVine show. So you go and pair these two together, in which Bleacher Report said that Chicago signing DeMar DeRozan was one of the worst, if not the worst, signing this past offseason. They didn't know how they were going to mess. They didn't know how the acquisitions of Caruso and Lonzo were going to be put together. They thought that Larry Markkinen leaving was going to, leave like a hole in the offense or a hole on the four position. And then they said that Vucevic wasn't what he used to be in Orlando. So, I mean, they were just beyond confused as to how this was going to work. They were very skeptical. And DeMar has been on an absolute tear as of the last month, if not more. I mean, going back to January 30th, his last, I believe, 10 games in order from the 30th forward are 23, 29, 28, 31, 45, 38, 36, 35, 38, 40. He's literally getting better as days go on. And the man is putting up ridiculous numbers, whether it's in the clutch, game-winning shots, three-point percentage has even gone up, and we all know that he is not a three-point shooter. And, of course, he is known as one of the best, if not the best, mid-range shooters in the NBA. But he finally has a comparable scoring partner. Not that Kyle Lowry was bad, but he's not putting up the numbers that Zach LaVine is putting up. He has a surrounding cast around him that's actually going to be able to assist him to take the load off of his shoulders. To circle back to the MVP, I don't see why not. He's one of the top scorers in the league. He's got a top-seeded record in his own conference. I mean, his running mate is averaging 23, 24 plus points as well, so it's not like he's taking all of the shots. And he's shooting it efficiently from the field. I mean, 51%, almost 52%. That is efficiency. He's still averaging 5 rebounds a game. He's still averaging 5 assists per game. Can you really make much of an argument that he isn't? I mean, especially with the tear he's been on as of late, and he's also averaging a career best in points per game. So DeMar DeRozan is making a case for it. The Chicago Bulls are surging, and they are capitalizing in the Eastern Conference. So that sums up a formula for me to say, without a doubt, he's got to be, if not in the discussion, he's got to be a front runner as of right now.
Well, when I look at DeMar DeRozan, I think he's right in the middle of the pack as far as the MVP contenders goes. Because when you look at the entire landscape of the NBA and you focus on MVP contenders this season, more than likely you're going to bring up names like Nikola Jokic. You could bring up names like Joel Embiid or Ja Morant. And to me, I think it would be a disservice to not have DeMar DeRozan's name in there because, Kevin, I don't know about you. The point that you brought up about Bleacher Report's outlook as far as what the Bulls did with signing DeMar DeRozan was one of the worst, if not the worst, free agent acquisition this offseason. Bleacher Report looks absolutely stupid right now with that decision because look at the success that the Bulls have had because of DeMar's presence. I mean, when you focus on just the typical stats, you focus on like points, rebounds, assists. I mean, DeMar's going out there and averaging either career highs this season or like right alongside it. So like when I brought up the fact that he was shooting 51% from the field, I mean, you'd have to go back to 2019 when he was playing with the San Antonio Spurs when he had that type of efficiency from the field. Because the one thing about DeMar DeRozan's game that I've always liked is that even though that he's not a big three-point shooter, that's not his focal point. That's not his focal point of his offensive game. He is an absolute killer from the mid-range. And it almost kind of reminds me of Kobe to a certain extent, just because, Kobe was so great, not just, up near the basket or behind the three-point line, but he made an absolute killing from about 15 to 20 feet out. And DeMar has done the exact same thing. And it's a recipe for success, no matter if you're coming into the league, if you've been in the league for 5-6 years, or you're a veteran that's been in it for 10 years plus. It's the one consistency that his game that I've always appreciated. And now that he's with a really good team in Chicago, he's taken it to the next level because DeMar is the leader of this team. And when you combine him with players on the roster like Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, Alex Caruso, Lonzo Ball, he's a perfect fit for what Chicago was looking for because Vucevic will be able to handle down low. Zach can bring the ball up, or, depending on who's on the court, you could put Lonzo in there. And then you got Caruso coming off the bench and providing a spark as well. But when the Bulls need a closer, or the Bulls need somebody to put the team on their back to get a win, or to really just pull away from the competition that they're going up against, he's the perfect guy to do that because with the way that he's shooting this year, it's unbelievable. And when you look at all of the advanced metrics, because, Kevin, I know we don't focus too much entirely on the advanced metrics. We do every now and then. When you look at some of these numbers, I mean, they're absolutely through the roof. His PER this year is the highest in his career. When you look at his win shares per 48 minutes, it's basically right up there with his career high. If I actually look at it correctly, it is his career high. And this is despite the fact that he's playing a significant amount of minutes, but he's still going out there and getting the job done. And it's also rubbing off on his teammates because when you look at the team's success this year, they're right at the top of the Eastern Conference with the Miami Heat, and the Milwaukee Bucks are just a couple games behind them. But it's been impressive, to say the least, what DeMar has been able to establish this year, his first year in Chicago. But if this is what he's able to do in year one in Chicago, I imagine that it's going to continue for at least the next 2, possibly 3 years, barring any sort of injury. But as far as this year, when it comes to the MVP consideration, I have to have him at the top of the list because he's been playing absolutely phenomenal, like you mentioned, the last month or so. And I think to not have him in that discussion, I think it would be just disrespectful because I think he's really played his part and it's leaving an impact on the team as well. And that's why not only are the Bulls in a good position, but I think DeMar DeRozan definitely deserves MVP consideration this year, without a doubt.